וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם.
Bauchim Habaim. Welcome to this week's Shi'ur Ivrit, Hebrew lesson. Our Torah portion for this week is entitled Mishpatim. Mishpatim literally means judgments. We can tell from reading the name of our Torah portion that it is a plural word. It ends with Yud Mem Sofit. Remember, this is the masculine plural ending for a masculine word. Mishpatim, judgments, is a masculine word. As we begin our lesson today, I would like to point out that this week serves as our third review together. Last week we did a little bit of reviewing over the word et, which has no English translation, and we also learned a new pronoun o. This week I would like to review the masculine plural ending, the vav at the beginning of a word, the hey at the beginning of a word, and I would like to provide a small reminder to all of us about roots and how important it is that we study them and memorize them. Let's begin with our vocabulary for this week. We are on lesson 18, so open your Search the Sidra workbook and read along. I will be reading in succession from the first word all the way down to the last on the far right-hand column of the page. Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem kitikne eved ivri shesh shanim ya'avod ובשביעי יצא לחופשי חינם. It's very important to point out in our review lesson this week the difference between chet and hey. Remember that in Hebrew, the chet makes the guttural sound, whereas the hey is like our English letter H. The second word of our vocabulary, ha-mishpatim, gives us a great example. Here we have the letter hey in front of the word mishpatim. Remember, a letter hey in front of a word means the. And we learned in the opening that mishpatim means judgments. Therefore, ha-mishpatim means the judgments. But let's look for a moment at challenge teaching number 2. Challenge teaching number 2 asks, which portion name in Deuteronomy is related to Mishpatim? Well, if you haven't looked ahead yet, I'll give you a little glimpse. The Torah portion name related to Mishpatim is Shoftim. It is spelled Shin, Pei, Tet, Yud, Mem Sofit, exactly like our word Mishpatim, except without the mem. Shoftim, what does that mean? Shoftim are judges. Mishpatim are judgments. Can you figure out which 3 letters make up the root of this word? Most oftentimes, if we want to find the root, we need to remove any prefixes and suffixes that appear with the word. In this instance, if we remove the Yud Mem Sofit at the end of the word Mishpatim, and remove the mem from the beginning, we have our 3-letter root, Shin, Pei, Tet. Anytime that you see a word with the root Shin, Pei, Tet, most likely it's going to have something to do with judges or judgment. It's very, very important that we learn to recognize roots in the Hebrew language, because the language itself is comprised of all kinds of different roots appearing in various forms. When we learn our prefixes and our suffixes, and we learned how to dissect these words, Then we will be able to take words apart and find their meanings, even if we may never have read or seen the word before. A good example of this is the challenge teaching number 3. The Hebrew word for work or service is avodah. It's not written for you, but avodah is spelled Ayin, Vet, Vav, Dalet, Hey. The question asked in number 3 is, Hu ya'avod? Who does work? Ya'avod contains the root Ayin, Vet, Dalet, which also means work or service. The one who does the work or the service is called an eved. It appears in the middle of our vocabulary list for this week's Torah portion. Eved ivri is a Hebrew slave or a Hebrew worker. Here we have an instance where the root Ayin, Vet, Dalet appears in 3 different ways. We can figure out what the word is talking about simply by knowing the meaning of the root. So I encourage you very much to study your roots and to try to find them. Before we read the Torah scroll on the left-hand side of the page, I would like to point out one more thing in review, and that is to remind you that a vav in front of a word means and. However, it can be pronounced several different ways. It can be pronounced v, or ve, or va. It can even be pronounced u. Last week it was pronounced u, and this week in our third word from the bottom, uvashivti, it is also pronounced with the u sound. You may not always know exactly how to pronounce it without vowel points, but what's important is that when you see a vav in front of a word, you understand that it means and. In closing, let's take a look at the left-hand side of our page, at our Torah scroll. The top half of our Torah scroll this week looks a little bit odd. That is because what is listed here are the 10 words, the 10 commandments. The 10 commandments are listed with paragraph breaks between each one, and that's why you see so many spaces. But we are looking for the first sentence in the Torah portion, Mishpatim. Have you found it yet? It's all the way at the bottom of the page, following the very last paragraph break. Are you ready to begin reading? Let's begin. Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. Ki tignei eved ivrit, 6 shanim ya'avod, uvashvi'it yetzei lechofshi chinam. Talmidim matsuyan. Excellent, students. I'm proud of you. Let's keep working together through the Torah to learn Hebrew. What an exciting journey we're on. I'll see you next week. Litrot.
Kalim